Anya stood on the crumbling sidewalk, the pre-dawn chill biting at her skin.
Not yet.
Waiting for a ride that felt like a phantom. Minutes earlier, her sister Lena's frantic call had shattered the fragile peace. Mom, stroke. Unity Medical Center, it's bad, Anya. Her world had tilted. Just then, a sleek, obsidian convertible glided to a silent stop. A silhouette of power behind the wheel. Anya didn't think. She just ran. She flung open the door, a desperate prayer on her lips. He wasn't her driver. But in that moment of raw vulnerability, his quiet get-in became a lifeline. This wasn't a story of love, but of an unexpected alliance, a bridge built in crisis. The nightmare had begun at 6:47 a.m. Anya had barely stirred from sleep when Lena's voice, ragged with terror, tore through her. Mom's in the hospital, Anya. A stroke. They said it's critical. Please, you have to come. Her heart seized. Her mother, a vibrant force of nature at 62, who still danced through life and planned their Sunday dinners. A stroke. Anya ripped off the covers, her legs shaking as she stumbled from bed. Every fiber of her being screamed, Unity Medical Center. Now. Then the cruel twist. Her old car, a symbol of her daily grind, was still in the shop, a casualty of a breakdown 2 days prior. Uber, she whispered, the word a desperate plea. Her hands trembled, fumbling for her phone, the screen a blur through her tears. There was no time for vanity, no thought for the worn, faded clothes she usually wore. The elegant, borrowed dress from last night's charity event lay draped over a chair. She pulled it on, a stark contrast to her inner turmoil. The app loaded, a digital lifeline. As she typed Unity Medical Center, driver, Marcus, 2 minutes away, a flicker of hope. She snatched her worn purse, a lifetime of struggles clutched within. Rushing onto the street, the cool, damp air hit her like a physical blow. She stood, a solitary figure, phone pressed to her ear, scanning the empty road. Lena's voice, a broken whisper, delivered more devastating news, life support, Anya. She checked the app, still to minutes, then 5. Then the digital dagger, your driver has canceled, finding you a new ride, nitrogen monoxide. The word screamed in her mind, a primal roar of injustice. She wanted to scream, to rage against the invisible barriers that kept her from her mother. 3 houses down, Dr. Elias Thorne, head of neurology at Unity Medical Center, eased his sleek black convertible from his driveway. An early meeting awaited him, a day of critical decisions. The morning was crisp, the sky a canvas of emerging light. He drove, top down, a moment of quiet before the storm of his day. Then he saw her, a woman on the sidewalk, pacing like a caged spirit, phone clutched, tears streaming down her face. He recognized her vaguely, a fleeting glimpse from a different world in this same neighborhood. Their paths had never crossed. Her eyes, wide with desperation, locked onto his car. Before he could react, she was running, a blur of blue against the gray dawn. Anya saw the car, the powerful machine, the man in the sharp suit. Her mind, racing, made a desperate leap. Her ride, her only hope. She tore open the passenger door. Thank God, she choked, her voice raw. Are you, Marcus? I need to get to Unity Medical Center. It's an emergency. My mom. A stroke. Please. Dr. Thorne stared, startled. He saw the tear-streaked face, the trembling hands, the primal fear. Unity Medical Center, that was his destination. I am not Marcus, he said, his voice calm, cutting through her panic. But I see your distress. Unity Medical Center. Get in, I'll take you. Anya blinked, confusion warring with relief. Not Marcus. No time for questions. She scrambled in, clutching her phone, a silent prayer of gratitude escaping her lips. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Thorne pulled away, the powerful engine a hushed hum, gliding towards the hospital. Anya's phone buzzed relentlessly. Lena, Kian, a torrent of updates, each one a fresh wave of fear. Between calls, she stole glances at the man beside her, calm, focused, quiet. He asked no questions, offered no platitudes. He just drove. A pang of shame. She had seen the car, the suit, and made an assumption. She hadn't truly seen him. She hadn't asked his name, hadn't acknowledged his humanity beyond her desperate need. Yet, he had said yes. I'm so sorry. she blurted. "I thought you were someone else. I didn't mean to. I just—" "Thank you, truly. Don't worry about it," Dr. Thorne interrupted, his voice a steady anchor. "Just focus on your mother. That's all that matters right now." His words, kind and reassuring, cut through the chaos. Anya nodded, wiping furiously at her eyes. The 12-minute drive felt like an eternity. Dr. Thorne, knowing every shortcut, every back alley of this sprawling city, pressed on. Finally, the imposing facade of Unity Medical Center loomed into view. He pulled up, precisely, to the emergency entrance. Anya fumbled for her phone, for her wallet. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing," he said, his voice firm, unyielding. "Go to your mother. That is what matters." Anya looked at him then, truly looked, kind eyes, a calm, unwavering presence. She wanted to ask his name, to thank him properly, to bridge the chasm of their different worlds. But there was no time. She nodded, grabbed her purse, and burst through the automatic doors, a whirlwind of blue. Dr. Thorne watched her disappear, then drove to the staff lot. He hoped her mother would be okay. Parking, he walked towards the entrance, briefcase in hand. A long day awaited, board meetings, complex surgeries, lives in his care. But as he walked through those same doors, the weight of his responsibilities felt different. He found himself thinking of the woman in the blue dress, a stark reminder of the raw human struggle beneath the city's veneer. Would their paths ever cross again? Anya burst into the ICU waiting room. Lena, her sister, sprang up, face streaked with tears, a silent scream of relief and anguish. Her brother Kian stood by the window, a statue of worry. Their father, head in hands, bore the crushing weight of the moment. Lena enveloped Anya in a fierce embrace. "Where have you been, my car?" "The Uber canceled." "How is she?" "Stable for now," Kian said, his voice hoarse. "On machines. The doctor will be out soon." Anya sank into a chair, utterly drained. They waited, an eternity measured in heartbeats. Finally, at 9:15 a.m., a nurse approached. "The neurologist will be out shortly." Anya stood, her heart a drum against her ribs. The sterile ICU doors hissed open, and a figure emerged, a doctor in a pristine white coat, tablet in hand. In that instant, Maya's world tilted on its axis. It was him, the man from the car. Her jaw dropped, a cold dread washing over her as the blood drained from her face. Dr. Elias Vance walked towards her family. His gaze swept over them, landing briefly on Maya, a flicker of recognition, a ghost of a memory. But his expression remained impeccably professional, unyielding. "Good morning," he began, his voice calm, authoritative. "I am Dr. Elias Vance, head of neurology. I've been overseeing your mother's care since she arrived." Maya couldn't breathe. "Doctor." He wasn't a rideshare driver. He was her mother's doctor. The irony, the crushing weight of her assumption, stole her air. "Your mother suffered a severe stroke," Dr. Vance continued, his words precise. "We've stabilized her, but the damage is significant. The next 48 hours will be critical." Lena instinctively clutched Maya's hand. David, ever the pragmatist, began to pepper Dr. Vance with questions about treatment, prognosis, and recovery. Dr. Vance answered each query with unwavering patience and crystalline clarity, explaining every detail. But Maya heard nothing, her mind a roaring tempest of shame. She had demanded he take her to the hospital, convinced he was her driver, and he had done it, without a single question, without a moment's hesitation. The humiliation burned. "Can we see her?" Lena's voice was a fragile whisper. "Yes," Dr. Vance replied, two at a time, only for a few minutes. His eyes met Maya's again, a brief, piercing moment of shared understanding. Then he turned back to the anxious family, a silent sentinel of their hope. "I will check on her regularly. If you have questions, ask the nurses to page me." He turned, disappearing back through the imposing ICU doors, leaving Maya reeling. Maya and Lena were the first to enter. Their mother, once so vibrant, now lay small and fragile in the vast hospital bed, a tangle of tubes and wires her only companions. Maya held her mother's hand, whispering words of love, of hope, prayers she desperately wished her mother could hear, could feel, could cling to. The hours bled into one another. They rotated visits, 2 by 2. The rest of the time spent in the sterile waiting room, nursing lukewarm coffee, fighting to hold themselves together. Maya's mind, however, was fixated on Dr. Vance, on the snap judgment she had made, and his profound kindness despite it. It gnawed at her. She cautiously approached a nurse. "Dr. Vance," the nurse's eyes lit up. "One of the best we have. Truly cares about his patients, a rare gem." Maya yearned to apologize, to confess her error, but every time she saw him, he was surrounded by other patients, other families, other crises. The moment never felt right. As evening descended, most of the family had reluctantly departed. Maya refused to leave. She sat alone in the waiting room, head slumped against the cold wall, utterly spent. At 11 p.m., a quiet presence, Dr. Vance appeared, two steaming cups of coffee in his hands. He sat beside her, offering one. "Decaf," he said softly. "You need to sleep." Eventually, Maya took it, her fingers trembling with gratitude. They sat in a profound silence for a moment. "You've been here 16 hours, he observed. "I can't leave her," Maya whispered, her voice raw. "I understand." The silence stretched between them, not awkward, but strangely comforting, a shared burden. "Dr. Vance," Maya finally began, her voice barely a whisper, "I need to apologize. This morning, I just assumed you were my rideshare driver. I didn't even really look at you. I just saw you and assumed, and I'm so ashamed." Dr. Vance shook his head gently. "Maya, you were in crisis. You needed help. That's all that mattered. But I should have," she started, tears welling. "You assumed someone was there to help you." Dr. Vance interrupted quietly. "And I was." "Why did you help me?" Maya asked, her voice breaking, the question a raw plea. Dr. Vance was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant. "My father died of a brain aneurysm when I was in medical school. Sudden. My mother was across the country. By the time she got to the hospital, he was gone. She never forgave herself for not being there." He looked at Maya, his eyes holding a deep, ancient sorrow. "When I saw you this morning, I knew what you were facing. If I could get you here even 5 minutes sooner, it might matter. So I did." Tears streamed down Maya's face, hot and relentless. "Your mother is lucky to have you," Dr. Vance continued softly, his voice a bomb. "And whatever happens, you are here. That means everything." They talked for 2 hours, about loss, about his father, and the path that led him to neurology, about her mother, and all the unspoken words Maya wished she had shared. The conversation flowed effortlessly, naturally, as if they had known each other for years, not hours. Maya found herself truly seeing him, noticing the subtle nuances, the way his eyes softened when he spoke of his father, the way he listened, truly listened, without trying to fix everything, the quiet, unwavering strength in his presence. At 1 a.m., alarms suddenly blared from the ICU. Dr. Vance was on his feet instantly, already running. Maya's heart seized in her chest. She watched, frozen, through the window as he and a flurry of nurses rushed into her mother's room. A terrifying ballet of urgency. 45 agonizing minutes crawled by. Maya stood, a statue of fear, praying with every fiber of her being. Finally, the alarms ceased. Dr. Vance emerged, his expression grave, etched with exhaustion. "We stabilized her," he said quietly, his voice heavy. "But Maya, the next 48 hours are critical. Her body is struggling." Maya nodded, tears falling freely, unable to form words. Dr. Vance placed a hand on her shoulder, a brief, comforting pressure. "I will be here," he promised, his gaze steady, resolute. Then he went back inside, and in that moment, Maya realized something profound had shifted. This wasn't just a doctor caring for a patient's family. This felt like something more. She sank back into her chair, exhausted and terrified, but somehow, inexplicably, comforted by the knowledge that Dr. Vance was there, that he cared, that she was not facing this alone. The next 2 days were the longest of Maya's life. She barely left the hospital. Lena brought her clean clothes. David brought food she couldn't eat. Their father sat quietly, holding their mother's hand whenever he was allowed in the room. A silent vigil. Dr. Vance checked on her mother every few hours, his presence a steady, reassuring anchor in the storm each time he emerged from the ICU. Maya searched his face for clues, for hope. Sometimes he offered a small, encouraging nod. Other times, his expression was an unreadable mask. On the third evening, Maya sat alone in the waiting room. Most of her family had gone home to rest. She stared at the floor, too tired even to cry anymore. Dr. Vance appeared in the doorway, still in his white coat, a beacon in the dim light. Elijah, a pillar of unwavering strength, emerged from the judge's chambers every few hours. His presence, a silent promise, anchored Serafina amidst the swirling uncertainty. Serafina's gaze, raw with desperation, clung to his face, searching for any flicker of light. Sometimes a subtle, encouraging nod would offer a fleeting reprieve. Other times, his expression remained an impenetrable mask, a fortress against the crushing weight of their struggle. On the third agonizing evening, Serafina sat utterly alone in the cavernous, silent hall. The last of their weary supporters had long since departed, seeking a fragile peace. Her eyes, hollowed by endless vigil, were fixed on the scuffed linoleum, beyond tears, beyond hope. Then a shadow fell across the threshold. Elijah stood in the doorway, his silhouette stark against the dim light, his worn suit a testament to the battles fought. He did not speak at first, just sat beside her. Aisha looked up at him, and in his eyes she knew. "I am so sorry," Elias Vance said, his voice a low rumble. "We fought with everything we had. But the weight of decades, the systemic damage, it was too much." Aisha nodded slowly, the words washing over her like a chilling echo of a battle lost. Yet a legacy forged. She had known this was coming. They all had. But knowing did not make the void any less profound. "Can I see her?" Of course, Elias walked with her to the community hall, where Lena lay, serene, a warrior at rest. The hushed whispers, the quiet reverence, finally silent. Aisha sat beside the casket, holding her mother's hand one last time, whispering a promise to carry on her torch. The woman who had raised her, loved her, instilled in her the fire for justice, the unwavering belief in human dignity. The memorial was for days later, a gathering of souls, a testament to a life lived for others. Friends and family, activists and community leaders shared tales of courage, of battles won and lost, of a future Lena envisioned. Aisha stood at the front, trying to find words that could encapsulate the seismic impact of Lena's life. But everything she said felt like a whisper against the roar of her mother's legacy. After it was over, after everyone had left, Aisha went home to an empty, quiet house. Not just her house, but the entire community felt the void, a silence where a powerful voice once echoed. She felt hollow, like the very foundation of her world, and her community's hope had been shaken. The days blurred into a haze of sorrow and a gnawing fear for the future of the movement. She took time off from her advocacy work, barely answered her phone. She sat in Lena's worn armchair, where countless strategies were planned, countless dreams were nurtured. She stared at faded newspaper clippings, protest photos, speeches, trying to grasp the tangible proof of her mother's enduring spirit. 1 week after the memorial, a knock, firm yet gentle, echoed on the door of her grief. Aisha almost did not answer it. She was not ready to face the weight of expectation, the community's unspoken plea. But something made her get up and walk to the door. Elias Vance stood there, not in his usual courtroom attire, but in the quiet strength of a fellow advocate. "I hope I am not intruding," he said quietly. No legal brief, no activist's megaphone, just the man who stood shoulder to shoulder with her mother. "I wanted to check on you, Aisha, not as Lena's colleague, but as a friend who understood the depth of this loss and the fight that remained." Aisha felt a tiny fissure of understanding, a shared burden, begin to ease the pressure. She hadn't realized how much she needed this shared understanding, needed his quiet strength. "Actually," she said, her voice hoarse from the unshed tears, the unspoken fears, "would you want to walk through the neighborhood, see the community she fought for?" "Yes. I need to feel the pulse of the world again." They walked in comfortable silence, a silence heavy with shared history, shared purpose. Elias gestured towards the path, a silent invitation to step back into the world. Aisha walked the same streets Lena had walked, embraced the same community she had loved. This time, there was no urgency of crisis, just the quiet hum of a community enduring, a legacy waiting to be honored. Elias walked through the heart of their community, past the murals, the community gardens, the places Lena had touched. The evening air, carrying the whispers of countless stories, was cool. The sky, a canvas of fading light, mirrored the hope that flickered within Aisha. She felt the gentle breeze, a reminder of life's persistent flow. They did not talk much at first. Words were unnecessary. The shared understanding was a language unto itself. In that silence, a profound solidarity began to take root. After a while, Aisha began to speak, her voice gaining strength with each memory. She told him about her mother, not about the systemic battles or the legal defeats, but about the essence of Lena, her infectious laugh that could disarm the most hardened opponent, her fierce determination, even in small things, her refusal to be anything but herself, her unwavering belief that knowledge was power, that every child deserved a voice, a story. She volunteered at the community library every Tuesday for 20 years because she believed every child deserved dignity, opportunity, and the tools to shape their own destiny. Elias listened, truly listened, his gaze steady, his presence an anchor. He did not offer empty promises or try to diminish her grief. He just walked and listened, letting Aisha's words paint a vivid portrait of Lena's indomitable spirit. Lena was more than amazing, Aisha. She was a force of nature, a beacon. She was Elias, and more. Aisha wiped away a tear, a mix of sorrow and fierce pride. You helped her secure those crucial victories, those moments of triumph against overwhelming odds. Your unwavering support, your brilliant legal mind, you amplified her voice, extended her reach. You gave us that gift. Elias shook his head, a humble acknowledgement of their shared struggle. Lena was a titan. I was merely privileged to stand beside her. I'm just sorry we couldn't win every battle, couldn't shield her from the exhaustion. Every single fight, every single victory, every single moment of her life mattered, Elias. Aisha said firmly. They built the path we walk now. They walked for another hour, the familiar streets now imbued with new meaning, new purpose. Winding past the community center, the historic church, the places where Lena's spirit still lingered. Eventually, Elias turned back toward their street. He stopped in front of Aisha's house, the house that had been Lena's sanctuary, her command center. Neither moved, held by the weight of the moment, the quiet understanding. They stood there, leaning against the porch railing, watching as the last embers of daylight faded, and the streetlights began to hum to life. Aisha finally spoke the truth that had been stirring within her that day. In the sterile halls of the courthouse, or the somber community meeting, I saw what I expected to see. I saw the formidable lawyer, the tireless advocate, the one who fought for my mother's cause. I didn't truly see you. And now, Elias asked quietly, now I see someone whose brilliance is matched only by his compassion, Aisha said, turning to look at him. Someone who champions the voiceless, who sees the inherent dignity in every soul. Someone whose legal prowess is a shield for the vulnerable, a sword for justice. Someone who stood by my mother, and now stands by me, not out of obligation, but out of shared conviction. Through every challenge, every setback, she paused, her voice thick with emotion. With a dawning sense of possibility, I see you, Elias, and I see the path forward. Elias reached out, his hand a steady, reassuring presence, a silent promise of solidarity. His touch was warm, steady, grounding. Glad I answered the call to stand with Lena, and now, with you, he said softly. Not how I imagined our paths would truly converge, but I wouldn't change a single moment of this shared journey. Aisha let out a soft, genuine laugh, the first true sound of lightness in weeks, the most profound, unexpected connection forged in the crucible of loss and legacy. They stood there as the last light faded from the sky, two souls united by a shared purpose, under the vast, star-dusted sky. To people, brought together by the enduring spirit of a woman who fought for a better world, and in the wake of her passing, found the seeds of a new beginning, a renewed commitment to the fight. I'd like to talk more, to plan, to continue this conversation about Lena's vision, Elias said after a while, a conversation about the future. When you're ready to step back into the arena. Aisha smiled, a flicker of the fire Lena had ignited now burning brightly within her. Something that felt undeniably like renewed purpose, like the dawn of a new chapter. I would like that very much, Elias. I think Lena would have wanted that. But perhaps we start with a meeting, a strategy session, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning. The fight continues, Elias agreed, a shared resolve etched on their faces. They stood there, under the watchful gaze of the community, for another hour, talking about Lena's dreams, about the systemic barriers, about the power of collective action, about the seeds of justice planted in their youth, about the world they both yearned to build, about the profound loss and the healing that comes from carrying on a righteous cause, about the undeniable force that draws kindred spirits together, especially when the stakes are highest. When Aisha finally stepped back into her home, it no longer felt empty. The weight of grief was still there, heavy and real, but it was now tempered by a burgeoning strength, a fierce determination. The echoes of Lena's absence still resonated, heavy and real, but now there was a symphony of purpose, a chorus of voices ready to rise, something lighter, the undeniable power of solidarity, the promise of a united front, the promise of a future where Lena's legacy would not just live on, but thrive. The next morning, Aisha woke with a clarity she hadn't felt in weeks. She rose, not just to face a new day, but to ignite a new chapter in the ongoing fight for justice. Alara, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, truly saw herself in the reflection. Her eyes, heavy with the weight of countless battles, still held the echoes of injustice. But beneath the weariness, a flicker ignited, a defiant ember, promising not just joy, but an unyielding resolve. As the first rays of dawn pierced the urban haze, Alara saw Kian approaching her stoop. In his hands, to steaming mugs, on his face, that familiar, unwavering smile, a beacon of steadfast support. She opened the door, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey, before he could even knock. "Morning, Kian," she murmured, accepting the warmth of the cup. "Morning, Alara," he responded, his voice a steady anchor. They sat on the worn steps, the city slowly stirring around them, a stark contrast to the quiet storm they carried within. A lone jogger passed, a distant dog barked, life, in its relentless rhythm, moved on. Yet their fight remained. "Even after all we've witnessed," Alara began, her gaze distant. "Tell me, Kian, not the strategist, not the orator, just you." And he did. He spoke of his childhood in the South Side, of finding solace in the soulful wails of old blues and the escapism of B-grade action flicks. He spoke of an innate desire to uplift, to protect, and the crushing weight of seeing hope dwindle, despite every fiber of his being fighting against it. Alara, in turn, shared her own truth, her tireless work building bridges through education, her vision of a sanctuary where every voice could rise. She confessed how the urgency of the cause had sometimes blinded her to the quiet struggles, the unsung heroes right in their own community. "Exactly like that," Kian affirmed, a knowing smile gracing his lips, a rare, genuine laugh escaped Alara. Their coffee, now cold, was forgotten. They sat in a silence that spoke volumes, the world outside a blur. Alara truly saw Kian then, the unwavering conviction in his gaze, the quiet dignity in his posture, the man who had offered not just comfort, but an unshakable belief in their collective power when her own had faltered. "Thank you," she whispered, "for this morning, for standing firm, for being here, now, when the fight feels endless." Kian reached out, his hand gently enveloping hers, a silent pact. "Thank you for letting me stand with you." As the sun climbed, casting long shadows, they sat, two souls forged not by tragedy, but by a shared purpose, a relentless pursuit of justice. They found something neither had sought, an unbreakable bond. True solidarity doesn't always erupt in grand rallies or fiery speeches. Sometimes it blossoms quietly, in the shared burden of injustice, in an active unwavering support, in the profound understanding between two people who have both stared into the abyss of systemic oppression. Alara didn't know what tomorrow would bring. The scars of battles fought still ached, the path ahead uncertain, but as she sat beside Kian, their hands intertwined, she felt it, a surge of hope, potent and pure, a defiant whisper against the roar of injustice, and in that moment, she knew that hope, that unity, was everything. It was more than enough to fuel the fight. to light the way forward.